Hey everyone, this is Rohit from careersprints.com, and we like to produce videos that help you with your professional development and continuous learning. In this video, I'd like to talk about the role of the project manager. Please note that this video is a recording of a free live class that we do twice every month. If you like to attend a free live class and better understand the content from the PM walk, please register for it with the link in the video description. All right, without further delay, let's dive into the video.
Three from the PM walk. Okay, so one of the key things to understand is that the PMP exam is going to test you. On a lot of questions. Basically, the point that I'm trying to make is that a lot of questions will be like, what should the project manager do? So the questions would be things like, what should the project manager do next? What should be the first step that should be taken by the project manager? So a lot of the questions, circle around the project manager because, it's a project management certification that you're doing. So, it's critical to have an understanding of the PM, in a predictive and an agile environment. Right. And, what are the different hats that the PM plays or wears rather while managing a project? Okay, so if you see, it says, so it's important to understand what is the difference between the role of the project manager versus, let's say, like a functional manager or an operations manager. So I think these are some critical things that you should have an understanding of, before we move on. So if you see, it says, like the role of a project manager is distinct from that of a functional manager or from an operations manager. It says typically the functional manager focuses on providing management oversight for a functional or a business unit. Operations managers are responsible for ensuring that business operations are efficient, whereas the project manager is the person assigned by the performing organization to lead the team that is responsible for achieving the project objectives. So in a nutshell, a functional manager is like a departmental manager. So for example, let's say if I say, the testing manager, or if I say the development manager, like for example, in a software company, you can have a testing manager, you can have a development manager, or you can have a QA lead. So all these are different job titles that are given to people. So, for example, a development manager would be focused on managing a team of developers. A test manager would be responsible for managing a team of testers, right? A QA manager or a QA lead would be responsible for managing a group of quality assurance people. So the point here is that functional managers are focus on a particular function or task that is being done in the organization. Right. So it could be, one specific task that is being performed. For example, development is a task that is being performed in the organization. Testing is a task that is being performed in the organization. So these managers are, primarily they're task managers, right? So their focus is very different. Their focus is just on ensuring, that their team is following a process and that the team is able to deliver the outputs that is expected of them, right? So their role becomes more narrow as compared to project manager. So for example, a project manager, like if you worked as a project manager, or if you worked in a project, where you worked under a project manager, you would notice that a project manager would generally be managing a team of specialists, right? So, these would be, for example, if the project is to build, let's say, a software application, you would need all sorts of people. You would need a product owner or like a product manager. You would need you would need, for instance, testers. You would need developers. You would need business analysts. You would need quality assurance people, you would maybe need release managers, you may need all sorts of people who are involved in developing that software application, or their software product. So a project manager is basically a person who is managing all of these people, because the project manager is eventually responsible that are produced by the project. Right? So as a project manager, it is your responsibility to ensure that you manage all the specialists, because so as a project manager, you're going to manage all the specialists, because the work of all the specialists is going to get integrated, right? And then it's going to be delivered to the end user or to the customer. So as a project manager, it is very important that you are able to carry out all these different roles, and you're able to manage all these different specialists. So there are two pieces to the role of a project manager. One is to ensure that processes are being followed, and the output is being delivered. The other piece of project management is leading the team, right? So I'm going to talk about leading the team as well, when we get into the leadership element. But understand that the job of a project manager is just not of a task manager. So a project manager cannot be behaving like a functional manager or like an operation manager. A project manager is also responsible for the team. So in addition to the project manager's role of planning, directing, monitoring, controlling, and closing a project manager is also responsible for motivating and leading the team that the PM is working with. Like if you read, or if you've seen good project managers in your company, you would notice that a good project manager is always someone who would lead from behind, or he or she may use a visionary style of leadership, or he or she may use a participative style of leadership, or an affirmative or a coaching style of leadership, where they are basically enabling the team to become better at their jobs. Right? So this kind of leadership, visionary, participative, coaching, agile style of leadership, all of these are leadership techniques that have emerged in the last decade or so, and they have become more prevalent in the current world that we live in. You can understand that these days nobody likes to be told what should be done. Right? People have become more independent. People don't want micromanagement. People don't want to be task managed. People want to be given the autonomy and the freedom to decide how they want to work, at least on a day-to-day basis. So the best project managers are people who would be involved in basically leading and inspiring the team to do better, and to be able to contribute to the benefit of the project. Okay. So now we're going to talk about what is the project manager's sphere of influence, right? So if you see, it says, under the project manager's sphere of influence, there are a couple of things. So it says the project manager would lead the project team to meet the project objectives and stakeholder expectations. So obviously every project has stakeholders. So for example, any project that you can think of, right? Whether it's a healthcare related project that you're doing, or whether it's a construction project that you're involved in, there are always stakeholders. So there are regulators who are stakeholders. There are there could be other companies that are stakeholders. There could be investors who are stakeholders. There could be general people who are getting affected by the project that you're doing. They are stakeholders. People inside the company are stakeholders. Senior executive members of your company, they are stakeholders. So you have a range of stakeholders in a project. So basically the job of the project manager is to coordinate, with different stakeholders, and to ensure that the project team, basically like the developers, the testers, in a software project, or whoever is involved in the project, they are all able to come together, and they are able to meet the end goal of the project, that is to produce a successful outcome, or whatever is the outcome that you've defined for your project. In addition to that, So in addition to leading the team, what else is the project manager doing? So when I say project manager sphere of influence, think of it as what are the broader responsibilities of the PM. So the project manager is responsible for leading the team. The project manager is also responsible for communicating amongst the various stakeholders. So this could be the project sponsor, the project team, the different functional managers, the different operational managers, or the different departments, etc., etc. Right? In addition to that, the project manager, would also provide vision for the project, depending upon the level of autonomy and the level of responsibility that the project manager has been assigned with. The project manager can also help in crafting the vision for the project. So, in a smaller company, you would notice that project managers are also involved in crafting the vision for where the project is going to go. In a bigger company, the role of the project manager becomes a little more limited because there are senior people who are doing this work for you. So it really depends on the size of the organization and the structure of the organization, how the vision is defined. For example, in my company, because we are a smaller organization of just a couple of people, right, I'm involved in providing the vision, but I'm also involved in doing a lot of the day-to-day tasks, right? So I actually take on the role of a team manager, a team member, a project manager, and even the visionary, or like the product owner, or like the owner of the organization as well. But if I were working in a bigger organization, I would just playing a very small piece. Maybe if I've been given the project manager role, I may not be involved in doing the tasks on their own. I may also not be involved in crafting the vision. Somebody else may be crafting the vision, and I may have a project team assigned to me who would be responsible for doing the day-to-day work. My job would be to lead the team, and to ensure that the team is able to produce their outcome. So, depending upon the size of the organization, the project manager's role will differ. But broadly, these are a few things that the project manager will do. Next, the project manager would also interact with other project managers. So, if you've seen, if you worked in a program environment, for example, if you understand what program management is, right? So program management is a level above project management. So projects or programs are a collection of related projects. If I talk about program management, right, under program management, you have many projects, and each project may have a project manager. So you being a project manager, you can interact with other project managers for resources. You can interact with other project managers or with the PMO for funding. You can interact with other project managers for distribution of deliverables, for alignment of project goals, and so on and so forth. So as a project manager, it is your responsibility to coordinate with other people who have an impact on your project, or whom you can impact because of whatever you're doing as part of your project. So for example, there could be resource constraints, right? In a company, there are always limited number of resources, whether it's human or non-human resources. So you may have to negotiate with other project managers for resources, right? You may have to negotiate for funding as well. For example, if your project is more critical than the other person's project, you may have to justify to management or to the PMO why you need more funding, or why you need a certain amount of funds to be able to infuse into your project, right? So that is another element that you should consider when you're doing project managers, that you are literally interacting with people in a 360-degree fashion. So you're interacting with vendors, you're interacting with other project managers, you're interacting with senior people, you're interacting with junior people in your organization. So you are playing a very, very pivotal role in the organization that you work with. And then finally, the project sponsor to address any internal politics and strategic issues as well, right? So any any internal changes in the organization, for instance, these could be changes to the company strategy, or these could be changes to the political environment, or maybe like an organizational restructure that may be happening. You have to work with the project sponsor to address these issues as well. So the project sponsor is basically the person who authorizes the funding and the strategy for the project, right? So the project sponsor generally sits above the project manager, and is responsible for the overall direction and the management of the project as well. In addition to that, the project manager demonstrate the value of project management. So that's a very, very critical piece. So yeah, like nowadays you must have seen, especially if you worked in an agile company, you would notice that, you have agile coaches, and the job of an agile coach is to promote agile within the organization. It's basically, when you promote a philosophy or like a movement like agile within your organization, you're making your company more capable. You're increasing the efficiency of your company. You're bringing a host of benefits to your organization. And I'm not going to talk about what specific benefits agile coaches bring, but they basically help the company become better at what they are doing, right? And it is very critical as project managers to demonstrate the value of project management frameworks and project management tools, and generally project management as a discipline to the broader organization. So basically you're kind of getting buy-in from different quarters. You're getting buy-in for project management. So that is the meaning of demonstrating the value. So you can do it through being a part of a PMO, like a project management office, or you can also do it in an informal structure where a group of project managers can come together and start maybe building templates, building frameworks, applying different kinds of techniques to just enhance the practice of project management within the organization. Then it says demonstrate the value of project management, increase the acceptance of project management in the organization. It's the same thing, increasing acceptance would be more like promoting project management, and then advance the efficacy of the PMO. So the word PMO stands for the project management office. The project management office is a body, of people, or like a department which is responsible for everything project management. So this could be, for example, templates for project documents. This could be suggesting tools to use in a particular project. This could be helping projects to figure out the life cycle. So for example, depending upon the type of project that you're doing, you may not necessarily use a purely agile life cycle, or you may not necessarily use a purely predictive life cycle. You may use a combination of both. So the PMO would advise you on or help you discover what life cycle would be most appropriate for the project that you're doing. So a lot of the admin work, right, and the project strategy work and the documentation is handled by the PMO in an organization. Right. So nowadays, there are so many automation tools. So the PMO could also be involved in automating elements, of project management in the organization. Maybe some tasks and so on and so forth. Then in addition to that, functional manager. So those are basically, so those are basically, the project manager's influence, with regards to the organization. And here are some more points. So a project manager may report to a functional manager. So depending upon the type of organization that you work with, if you're working for, let's say, a matrix type of organization or a functional organization, the reporting structures may differ. Like in a functional organization, the functional managers generally have more power in the organization, and the project managers in a way have to work under the functional manager. But if it's a projecticized organization or an organization which purely runs projects, the project manager may have more power. So it really depends. So the project manager can report to a functional manager, to a PMO, to a portfolio manager, to a program manager, and so on and so forth. The project manager will work closely with all relevant managers, like I said, all other functional managers and operational managers. And the project manager will work closely and in collaboration with other roles such as subject matter experts and those involved with business analysis or any other roles within the organization. So these are some responsibilities that the project manager carries out from an organizational standpoint and from a project standpoint. So what are the responsibilities of the PM from a project standpoint? So when I say project manager sphere of influence, I'm meaning what are the responsibilities of the PM from a project standpoint, and what are the responsibilities of the PM from an organization standpoint.
Thanks for watching the video. If you like the video, please hit the like button. Also, if you still haven't registered for a free live class, please do so. We pack tons of useful information that can make a massive difference to your PMP exam prep strategy. And the link for that is in the description below. Wish you good luck with the PMP exam. Thank you.